Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. Great to be along with you. How about we do away with the IRS? Do away with it altogether. President Trump, Elon Musk, and the DOGE team are now saying they are going to close over 100 IRS agencies across the country. These offices will shut down. Now, critics of this plan are going to tell you, oh, it's going to be harder for the IRS to operate. Give me a break. You and I both know that the IRS is bloated with one goal in mind, to go after hardworking Americans. This is about taking the power away from IRS, the tyrannical nature of the IRS. You know, the IRS is the only government I know of, the only government agency that I know of, that you are guilty until proven innocent. It goes against everything that the Constitution stands for. If the IRS says you owe money, and even if there's not a criminal case against you, okay, the IRS can seize your assets, seize your bank account, and you've got to prove why they can't take your money. That's guilty and then proving your innocence. That's not how America is supposed to operate. This is how the IRS operates. So I love the idea of doing away with the IRS altogether. Now, what would we put in its place? President Trump hasn't really talked about this. We know he has plans for tariffs, which certainly would have the external revenue service, raising money for people to compete and do business in the United States. It's the greatest nation in the world. Why wouldn't we be charging nations to come into this country and take part in our markets here? We should be. So you have that. I also believe that the economic boom we will see will most certainly increase the number of taxpayers. And for many small business owners, they're going to be more successful. They'll pay more in taxes, not a higher rate, but more in taxes, because they're making more money. But I have an even better idea. And I have been pushing this idea since I was running for Congress all the way back in 2011. And that idea is the fair tax. The fair tax is dubbed the fair tax because it's fair for everyone. A 23% national sales tax that would do away with the income tax altogether. Now, why do I think that would work? There are many reasons why. This is one of the most studied tax proposals ever. It is revenue neutral, so we don't lose any money, but everybody pays their fair share. I'm going to explain it to you here in a moment of why I love the fair tax. But before we do that, let me tell you, folks, about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Grant is where I want you to go to make the switch. Switching is super easy. So my service is provided by Patriot Mobile on my phone. I have two lines, actually, from two networks, and you get to choose which network you want to be on, okay? I have two networks on one phone. They call it the Patriot One plan, one phone, two lines. So no matter what city I'm in, I've always got a decent signal. This also enables them to give the best performance guarantee in the business. If you're not happy with your service, you can just switch to another network, but you're paying Patriot Mobile, not the woke left. Not the big three cell phone companies that are literally funding Planned Parenthood and all the other woke left organizations out there. So this is about a parallel economy. It's about making sure when you spend money, you spend it with a company that's going to use it wisely to push conservative thought, conservative principles, conservative ideals. This is what Patriot Mobile does, and I am grateful to them for that. So 972-PATRIOT, that's the number I want you to call, 972-PATRIOT. Make the switch today. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month service, and I promise you, you are going to love them. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Use that promo code GRANT. All right, so before I get into a smorgasbord Thursday, okay, I got a lot to play for you and cover. I want to talk about the fair tax. I have been a big proponent of the fair tax for over 10 years now, probably close to 15 years. It is one of the most studied tax proposals on earth, and I love it because it is fair. And it's better than a flat tax because the flat tax, you still have to have deductions, right? A flat rate for everyone is fair, but you still have to come up with deductions, and that brings in lobbyists. What is deductible? What isn't deductible? How much should I deduct for my property tax? All of this goes away with the fair tax. There is no income tax. You don't have to figure out what your net profit was if you're a company anymore. 23% national sales tax on new goods and services. That's it. New goods and services only. And that's how we raise the money. So Think about what lobbyists do in Washington, D.C. Lobbyists are all about lobbying for their clients, specifically for the tax code. What's immune to the tax code, what gets special loopholes, what gets special circumstances, special privileges. All of that goes away with the fair tax. Now you say, oh, well, rich people won't pay more. Yes, they will. If I buy a Porsche and pay 23% tax on that, that's going to be more than the Honda Civic that somebody else buys, 23% tax. So it is a tax on consumption, which is a much better thing to tax rather than taxing good things like making income. Why would you tax income? That's a good thing. We should incentivize making all the money that we can. So this is why I like the fair tax, 23%. And if you say for poor people, and think about it, folks, if you make $100,000 a year, you keep $100,000 a year. Your paycheck is your paycheck. Nothing's coming out of it. We still have Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. We still have all those things that we fund. But your paycheck, you keep it all. And we fund it all through a national sales tax. Now, the other side of this, you say, okay, well, poor people, we're going to tax water. We're going to tax everything. There's nothing that is going to be exempt from the tax because then it wouldn't be fair. And you would have lobbyists coming back in and lobbying their product or their industry to be exempt. No, nothing is exempt. But you will get, as an American citizen, a prebate every month. For one person, now there's a schedule of this prebate, but it amounts to every person in America, you get about $226 a month to take care of the tax on essentials, food, water, groceries, that kind of thing. So you'll get $226, and this will go to you whether you're a billionaire or whether you are, in poverty. You will get the $226 a month. It'll be loaded on a card. We know we have these type of food stamp cards, welfare cards, whatever. America is set up to do this. We do away with the IRS altogether. States would then be tasked with collecting the sales tax, sending it to the state. We do away with all the record keeping. It's a win-win-win-win-win for everyone, and I actually love it. So look, that's what we need to do. All right, is go to the fair tax. Now, I want to turn now to the budget battle. The budget battle is very important. We need to start codifying President Trump's agenda, the DOGE team's actions into law. That's what the Budget Act should be all about. What should we call it, Senator Mullen?
Because some people are calling it budget, some people are calling it reconciliation. Why don't we call it the DOGE Act? Because really this is about President Trump's agenda.
Call it the DOGE Act. I love it. That is what we should call it. And here's why we call it that. Because this budget will be about getting closer and closer and closer to balancing our budget. We're not going to get there this first time around. But when you look at the money that Elon Musk is saving us through President Trump's executive orders, in many cases, I talked about doing away with some of the IRS offices. All of this is a savings, doing away with much of the real estate. But what do we need to do? We need to cover President Trump's back by getting some of this codified into law legislatively. So let's call it the DOGE Act.
Pushing forth his agenda, making the cuts, getting us healthy, making sure our defense is strong, making sure our economy is strong, making sure our energy sector is strong, making sure our military is strong.
That's what we want from this bill. President Trump's agenda, the DOGE Act. Thank you, Senator Mullen. So here's the reality of the situation, okay? When you talk about Elon Musk and saving money and the common sense actions that we could take legislatively, we've got it won all the way through the House. Now we need the Senate to get on board with this DOGE Act. Let's start calling it. Joe Biden called it the Inflation Reduction Act. At least we deal in truth. Department of Government Efficiency. Let's have an efficient budget. Joe Biden's bill didn't reduce any inflation. Joe Biden's bill crushed America. The DOGE Act will save America. This is why I love this name. Mullen continues.
and then locking in taxes. So what's the differences between the two? The one we voted on in the Senate last week is just a very narrow package. It just dealt with defense, national security, and the border with energy in it. What the House passed was a much broader package, and it also included taxes. Now, the current tax policy, we're just looking to extend it. The problem is this only extends it for up to 8 years. The president, if you're paying attention today, just put out a Truth Social post that him and I spoke about earlier today about asking the House and the Senate to make them permanent. And I will tell you, I don't want to see these expire. And that's exactly what we're facing right now. If we don't...
Listen to me. Stop fooling around. Get the DOGE Act passed. Get it passed with tax cuts. Get it passed with savings by cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse. You're not even going to have to cut benefits. You cut out the waste, fraud, and abuse, and you solidify these tax cuts into law forever. Fooling around with letting them expire years out and making it somebody else's problem, this is what Washington loves to do. Let's get on board with the Trump agenda, and the Trump agenda, first and foremost, is about making things happen. As a tribute to President Trump and Elon Musk, the DOGE Act ought to be the name of this bill. So that's what I'm going to call it from now on. Now, how bad is it inside of our federal government? How bad is it? When you look at the money being wasted, okay? This new DOGE Act, as I'm calling it, needs to cut out all of the waste, but even more, we're spending money on terrorists? Did you see my buddy Tim Burchett reveal that we have terrorist organizations receiving money from the United States American taxpayer? That should not be allowed in the DOGE Act.
Mr. Roman, are you aware that we are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Hamzi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kata'iba Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid.
Wait a second. Al-Shabaab? Hamas? He named just about every terror group under the sun. And they're getting American taxpayer dollars? How about the DOGE Act tackle that? President Trump can only do so much. This needs to be solidified in this bill so his agenda can be a legislative agenda that we don't have to fool around with the next time around when President Trump is long gone. I don't want to be funding terrorist organizations. That is the most backward thing I've ever heard. These terror organizations despise us. They would like nothing more than to march us out onto the beach, Long Island, Pacific Ocean, down at the Gulf of America, wherever it be, put us on our knees and lop our heads off. And the United States government is giving money to these groups? How about we put that in the new DOGE Act that we don't fund these groups anymore? Common sense, folks. Common sense. My Lord. So I hope we can get to that point. I'm not convinced that we will, because I think sometimes we have weak lawmakers up there. President Trump makes everybody stronger. So here's the situation for you. President Trump makes everyone stronger. If you're strong and you're a Republican, then you better do what President Trump wants done. And that is solidifying his agenda into law. And you do that with not a budget bill, but the DOGE Act. It's a great name for it. D-O-G-E, DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. We're going to make the government efficient again. Ha! Wouldn't that be nice? And we can do it if Republicans do their job. Tim Burchett continues.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the mechanisms in place that are to stop foreign aid from going to terrorist groups, and why are they not working if we have any in place? Sure. And I would note that these are, you notice, these are terrorist weaponry. You see some AKs, SKSs, some snipers, some clips, some clip carriers, probably made in China. And I believe these are small landmines here beside right there.
Let's use Gaza as our case study. $2.1 billion in American taxpayers' money to Gaza since October 7th when Hamas invaded southern Israel. USAID money was going in terms of an emergency use authorization to try to go to parties that USAID formerly had a relationship with in the Gaza Strip. They had to have been vetted by OFAC. They should have been vetted against the special designated terror list from the State Department and from other Treasury organizations. Waivers were granted because they said that there was an emergency use to have that money come in to Gaza, thereby jettisoning the usual typical screening procedures. As a result, 90% of aid that was going from the United States by way of its agents in Gaza ended up in Hamas-controlled areas.
First off, Hamas controls everything in Gaza. So any group that you so-called vet that's operating inside Gaza, the money will ultimately flow back to Hamas. This is how dumb the United States is. And even though they were vetting, they waived the vetting on top of that. Again, when we start talking about budgeting for the United States of America, we've got this one bill through the House. The Senate is going to take it up. Let's call it the DOGE Act, and let's make sure it is efficient. Let's make sure it is accountable, and let's make sure it solidifies President Trump's agenda, first and foremost being we're not sending money to Hamas. We're not sending money to Al-Shabaab. We're not sending money to Al-Qaeda. We're not sending money to any organization you can think of that wants to kill Jews and Christians and non-believing Muslims too, by the way. Any act dubbed the DOGE Act cannot allow that to happen because it's un-American. But this is what Joe Biden was doing. Joe Biden was enabling these people. I'm going to play more of this for you in just a second, but before I do, folks, my friends over at get20now.com are great. 20% annualized interest on your money, okay? Paid out monthly. Just a couple days ago, I got my direct deposit. I have invested with them. I'm not going to pitch anything to you guys that I don't use. I love the people running this organization. You want to see what it's about and how clean and efficient their group is? This is one of their warehouses that they have, and they have many across the country. They buy the electricity super cheap. They buy Bitcoin. They mine Bitcoin in these warehouses at a rate nobody else can mine this Bitcoin. And in return for you helping them come up with the machines and the investment to make in all of this infrastructure, you get 20%, up to 20% paid monthly, annualized on your income. Okay? So 20% interest annualized, paid monthly, giving you what I dub as mailbox money. It is a fabulous offer that they're doing. I don't know, quite frankly, how long it's going to last because it has become very popular, especially popular with many of you. A lot of you email me separately and say, hey, I like this idea. They're great folks. They call you, call them back. It's important. Talk to them because they're getting a lot of interest in this. Get20now.com. That's the website. Get20now.com. You tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right. So let's continue. Tim Burchett talking to these witnesses about money going to terrorist organizations.
And this is ridiculous. Essentially, what the U.S. assistance to Gaza did was underwrite the ability for Hamas to survive until the ceasefire was just passed a few weeks ago. There was no strategic thought for it, and there was no screening.
Seems like the emergency might have been armed terrorists to kill civilians. Would that be accurate?
That's accurate, and even more than that, Samantha Powers, the administrator for USAID, was intent on having Israel not be able to defend itself.
To not be able to defend it.
Correct.
Mr. Primer.
Do you understand the ramifications of what that gentleman just said? That USAID, under the leadership of Joe Biden, did not want Israeli success. What I think he just told us was that this money was being funneled through USAID to enemies of Israel because they wanted Israel to lose. That's the Democrat Party for you. That's what's being exposed here. So as we move forward as a nation, we've got to realize there are some evil people inside government, very evil people that do not want the success of the United States. They do not want the success of our allies like Israel. What they want is the rising up of radical Islam. Why? I don't know. Maybe so we cry uncle. They transform this entire nation into their vision of what they want, which is a total tyrannical system where they have complete control over the citizenry and they lead by fear. That's how Hamas operates in Gaza. I think that's how Democrats want to operate here in the United States.
All right, is that correct? How do you say that? Primorac? I got Burchett, man. Nobody gets mine right, so don't worry about it. What is it? Primorac?
Perfect.
All right, thanks, brother. How did terrorists exploit our foreign aid loopholes?
Well, we have a lot of our
Can
international.
you pull your mic up? I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You have international NGOs and UN agencies actively lobby here in Washington, D.C. against vetting policies that would prevent it. I was the senior vetting officer at USAID, and what
Hold
we
on a second. Did you say United Nations is doing this? The UN?
Sure, everybody who's getting money lobbies here.
That they're lobbying against us. I'm sorry, Mr. Roman.
There's actually someone who used to work for one of those lobbies, the largest NGO lobby, Interaction. One of our co-witnesses here worked for them from 2018 to 2023. USAID effectively self-funds its own external private lobby that then goes back to Congress and asks for more money for USAID.
So the taxpayers fund this lobbyist who's working against American interests.
Correct.
Possibly killing our allies and possibly Americans.
They bring together groups in Washington that oversees work with groups that kill Americans.
Let me explain something to you that needs to be solidified in legislation. And if we put this in the DOGE Act, it would be great. We cannot have agencies lobbying Congress on behalf of the agency for money. Congress provides oversight. It decides where the money goes. You don't have outside lobbyists paid for by me. I don't want to pay USAID's outside lobbyists. Now, I understand you've got to have a government affairs liaison from each agency to go to Congress and talk about what you're doing and make sure members of Congress know the benefits of the agency. Each agency needs somebody like that. We shouldn't be hiring somebody from the outside to literally go lobby cash. So they look at this as an investment. They're operating now as a private enterprise instead of looking at it as an agency that operates under the purview of the United States Congress and ultimately from an executive level of the President of the United States. Congress funds these agencies. The President, the executive branch, runs them. Let's be clear about that. So now the UN's involved. Do you see the destruction of American sovereignty here? Do you see as we get into all of these hearings what Joe Biden and Barack Obama were doing? They were chipping away at American sovereignty, that the bureaucratic machine was becoming an animal unto itself, almost uncontrollable, to the point where you can't rein it back in. We see what's going on with the destruction of documents. We see the rearing of the ugly head of the deep state that is fighting back tooth and nail because it is being suffocated. And what happens when people are suffocated? They fight like the Dickens to try to breathe. We are cutting the air from the deep state right now, and they are fighting like the Dickens to take a breath. We cannot let up.
I don't need a flow chart to show that. I appreciate it. Do you think USAID programs have been aligned with the national security interests of the U.S.?
No, they have not. They have actually helped China.
Mr. Roman?
No.
Okay. How do these programs compromise our national security, Mr. Primorac?
They actually push China. They actually push much of the world towards China on the green energy agenda. They push people, ordinary people, billions of people towards China because of the resentment caused by our social re-engineering.
Are we being lobbied by these pro-communist China groups currently?
But a lot of these countries don't even have to lobby because they get the money anyway, like South Africa.
Yeah, and in fact, these lobbyists have come to the House and have tried to kill legislation like H.R. 160, which was meant to increase transparency in USAID's funding of overseas organizations.
Is that a current piece of legislation?
That's from the last session.
And give me that number again.
H.R. 160.
And what does it do?
It was meant to give U.S. lawmakers the ability to have higher transparency in terror financing investigations aimed at scrutinizing extremist groups.
Mr. Primorac?
We had a regulation before we left in the last administration that anybody who touches money in countries where there's terrorists, those names have to go through databases, terrorist databases. That was overturned by Biden.
Overturned by Biden. So you see what they're saying here. And by the way, Congressman Burchett, great job interviewing these witnesses. That's what you did. You didn't grandstand. You interviewed witnesses, let them give their knowledge to us, because what they're saying is stunning to the core. We had legislation up before the United States Congress during the last session that could have stopped this, that could have prevented money from falling into the hands of terrorists that want to kill Americans and Israelis and our allies in general. And they refused to pass it. And what little legislation did to vet out the people who are putting hands on this money in terror-born countries, Joe Biden squashed it. You tell me who's out for America and who's not. President Trump's not going to squash that piece of legislation. I promise you he'd push it through. Put that in the DOGE Act. That's what we got to call this budget act, the DOGE Act. I'm telling you, that's got to be the name, because it says everything. It's you know what? It needs to be the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency and Accountability. It's what's happening. People are finally being held accountable, and they're scared to death over this. They really are. Marjorie Taylor Greene offered up her own assessment of where we are, and it does not look good of what Elon Musk and the DOGE team is finding.
Mr. Primorac, Samantha Power, Biden's USAID administrator, openly spoke about her agency's efforts to promote democracy around the world. In your estimation, Mr. Primorac, is that what she was doing? If not, what was USAID doing during the Biden administration?
Let me cite the Holy Father, Pope Francis, who accused USAID and other donors of promoting ideological colonization, pushing a radical ideology onto the developing world that is anti-family and anti-life.
It has been asserted that USAID spent tens of millions of American taxpayer dollars to promote propaganda in Brazil.
Hold on a second. USAID's goal was to destroy everything that American values are built on? Destroy the American family? Do I need to hear this again? I think I do.
World, in your estimation, Mr. Primorac, is that what she was doing? If not, what was USAID doing during the Biden administration?
Let me cite the Holy Father, Pope Francis, who accused USAID and other donors of promoting ideological colonization, pushing a radical ideology onto the developing world that is anti-family and anti-life.
Oh, there you go. Your tax dollars at work promoting a radical colonization, not just in America, but across the globe, that is anti-family and anti-life. That from Pope Francis, who is usually a fan of socialist ideology. Even USAID was too radical for Pope Francis. That tells you all you need to know, folks. Again, we've got to rein this stuff in. Elon Musk and Donald Trump can only do so much. Every time Donald Trump writes an executive order to stop this from happening, know that that executive order is only in place for the next 4 years. As soon as the next president gets in, he can overthrow it. Now, I'm hopeful it'll be a guy like J.D. Vance. But God forbid the Democrats come back and win. Everything President Trump will be thrown out the window unless we solidify this agenda legislatively, and you do it in the DOGE Act. This is why President Trump called it one big, beautiful bill. The DOGE Act. What a beautiful name for it, too, isn't it? Beautiful. Let's get her done. I mean it. Time is now, okay? Time is now. We've got 4 years to turn this country around. We know we are in control for the next 4 years, so let's go out and win. Every day, I'm going to ask you, what are you doing to win? What are you doing to help this administration to win? Talk about the DOGE Act. Go out there and say, this is what we need to do, why we need to do it. Enshrine President Trump's legacy into legislation that will live forever. That's the only choice we have right now, because our country is under attack, and it still is, even with President Trump at the helm. I promise you that. So let me continue with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It has been asserted that USAID spent tens of millions of American taxpayer dollars to promote propaganda in Brazil in the lead up to the Bolsonaro-Lula election in 2022. It has been claimed that this funding was used to pass censorship laws and silence Bolsonaro's online presence, and even bar him from running for office in the future. Mr. Primorak, can you offer any insight into these allegations, or at least comment on whether the U.S. should play a role in toppling democratic processes around the world?
I think what we saw was USAID weaponized by the Biden administration and by Samantha Power to attack any party that was conservative. It just didn't happen in Brazil. It also happened, for instance, in very pro-America Poland and Hungary as well.
Bolsonaro was Trump of the tropics. I love the guy. I really do. And Brazil did exactly what they tried to do to Trump. They got him off the ballot, basically. They charged him with crimes. They wanted to lock him up. They did everything. They followed literally the American playbook to stop Bolsonaro. And now we're learning this playbook in Brazil was funded by the radical left here, running groups like USAID, pushing billions of dollars to Brazil to stop Bolsonaro because he was conservative. They hate the idea of freedom. Are you seeing the theme here? They do not want freedom anywhere in the world. And this, folks, is the deep state. It is the ruling class of career bureaucrats and politicians, the establishment. If they're not in power, they certainly don't want you in power. So they will do everything they can to keep that power. It's a disgrace, quite frankly, what they're doing. So Elon Musk talked about what he found and the waste, fraud, and abuse, and what's the word I'm looking for? Ineptitude of the federal government is really bad. These systems, computer systems, are so old. You think we're a first world country? I listen to Elon here. I'm thinking, what are we, a third world country? Is this Venezuela?
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually just call myself a humble tech support here because this is actually, as crazy as it sounds, that is almost a literal description of the work that the DOGE team is doing, is helping fix the government computer systems. Many of these systems are extremely old. They don't communicate. There are a lot of mistakes in the systems. The software doesn't work.
Computer systems are old. There are mistakes. The software doesn't work. Maybe in the new DOGE Act, we got to get some upgrades for the computer systems, ultimately to save money. Here's where business ideology comes in. We're going to actually offer up spending money in some places so you can save money in others.
So we are actually tech support. It's ironic, but it's true. The overall goal here with the DOGE team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing, it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. And taking a lot of flack, and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I'm gonna like stack them up, you know. But if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done.
So if Elon Musk is getting death threats, we know they tried to kill President Trump. This is how seriously they take this work as an assault on their ultimate quest to destroy this country and turn it into a socialist hellhole. They want Elon dead. They want President Trump dead. Quite frankly, they probably want me dead and many of my fellow conservative talkers dead, because we're standing up here spreading the word everywhere we can go. I'll scream it from the top of the mountain if that's what it has to take. Now, can President Trump balance the budget? Maybe. You look at close to $1 trillion that could be saved in Medicare, Medicaid from just the abuse of being fraudulent payments, bogus payments, error payments, payments to dead people. $1 trillion Remember, we only have a $2 trillion deficit. Now, I say $2 trillion. That's a lot of money, meaning we take in $5 trillion and change. We pay out $7 trillion and change. That's not a sustainable model. If you were to save $1 trillion in Medicare, Medicaid, and now you add up all of the other billions of dollars that he's saving right now, you get to that $2 trillion pretty darn quickly. Okay? There may be $1 trillion that Trump can raise. Now, remember, you don't just have to cut $2 trillion. If you can raise revenue, that's the other way to balance the budget. One way President Trump says he's going to do that is by charging $5 million for someone who wants to come in, live in America, start a business here, these rich entrepreneurs. $5 million for a pathway to citizenship. I'm open to any idea. Now, America is a commodity. It's the greatest nation in the world. Why wouldn't we charge outsiders, not American citizens, outsiders, the ability to come here and use the greatest market in the world? Well, we should, and this is why President Trump thinks like a businessman. So Howard Lutnick was asked about that. This plan for $5 million. Now, think about it. If you have 250,000 people ready to pay this $5 million, that's $1 trillion. Well, now you saved $1 trillion with just Medicare, Medicaid. You've raised $1 trillion. That closes the gap. You're going to have another $1 trillion in savings. That could start to pay off the debt. We're at $36 trillion in debt. That would mean even if you just had $1 trillion, that's 36 years to pay that down. You got to start, because right now our debt is increasing, not decreasing. Our interest alone is expensive. We're not even paying it down. We're just paying the interest rate on it. This is Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, talking about this idea of charging a lot of money for rich people to come here and get an American citizenship.
Are they going to be vetted, first of all?
Of course. Deeply vetted, and we said that from the first minute go. These are vetted people. These are going to be great global citizens who are going to bring entrepreneurial spirit, capacity, and growth to America. If one of them comes in, think of the jobs they're going to bring with them, the businesses they're going to bring with them, and they're going to pay American taxes as well. So this is huge money for America.
And how many people are waiting in this line currently?
So there are 250,000 people waiting in line now. If they're willing to pay the $5 million, that's over $1 trillion. That comes directly to $1.25 trillion just for that line. And I think these people are going to come enormous ways because they know they can come into America and they can be in the greatest country on earth.
Are there 250,000 people out there with $5 million to spend? Probably. For an American citizenship, we better do a very good job of vetting them, though. I think the 250,000 are in line or on this EB-5 program, which means if you come here, you start a business, it's a few $100,000. I think it's $800,000 to start a business, and you've got to employ 10 people. Then you can get on this pathway to citizenship. But that program is ripe with fraud. I have seen opportunities. I've been pitched on opportunities to go pitch, wealthy Mexican nationals to take advantage of business opportunities here where you got American citizens getting rich off the Mexican nationals that are coming to invest money, and it turned into a whole cottage industry. I like this idea better. You pay the federal government $5 million, you're in, come and do your thing. Right? We've taken in revenue from you, $5 million. Heck, why don't you make it a country club? Make them pay dues every month. Why not? If they got the $5 million to come in, let's make them pay dues. I don't know. Maybe. Lutnick had another great idea on how to save some money, by the way, and he was looking at the post office.
Are they going to be vetted, first of all?
Of course. Deeply vetted, and we said that from the first minute go. These are vetted people. These are going to be great global citizens who are going to bring entrepreneurial spirit, capacity, and growth to America. If one of them comes in, think of the jobs they're going to bring with them, the businesses they're going to bring with them, and they're going to pay American taxes as well. So this is...
Well, I played the wrong clip for you. This is him on how to save money. I'm sorry about that. I wasn't concentrating.
So the concept was I'm sitting with the president, and the costs of the post office are like it loses $7 billion. And he said, can you do something with it? And I said, sure. So
think about why the post office loses $7 billion, and then we'll hear his comment. I think about this a lot. People complain about the price of the stamp. I don't even know what it is now. I think it's over 50 cents. 50 cents for a stamp. Think about it, though. You got a dude who's going to come to your house. He's going to take a letter off your doorstep. They're going to bring that letter all the way to California if that's where you want it to go, anywhere in the United States for 50 cents. They're going to drop it off at your friend's doorstep for 50 cents. And it'll usually get there in a couple days. To me, that's a pretty good deal. In fact, I don't know how you're profitable on that model. I really don't. And the reality is you're not. So people, please do not complain about the post office being too expensive. They're going to come to your house for 50 cents and take a letter someplace else, anywhere in the country you want. What a deal.
I saw him the next day, goes, okay, what do you got? You know, he gives me a whole 24 hours to figure it out. And I said, well, the Commerce Department does the census. And we spend $40 billion every 10 years doing the census. And that means we hire 625,000 people. And they go and they rent cars and gas and you pay them food. And you know what they do? They go to every household in America and count the people. What department do we already have that already employs 625,000 people? It's got cars, already has gas, goes to every household. Can you imagine saying to your postman, can you count the people in the house? What day could he do the census? Monday? Could he double check it on Tuesday? How about Wednesday? He goes every day. So we can only save $40 billion or $4 billion a year, and we'll do a better job. And you know what else we can do with the post office? They can go to your house when you have a baby and give you the form for Social Security. And the 20,000 Social Security offices that we have, we just don't need them. We actually can do real customer service. Go right to your house. Someone died, here's the forms, you can fill it out. I'll bring them to your house. Customer service, why? Because we've got those people. Let's use the assets of the government to make us better and save us money. We can be smart, you know. We're allowed.
That's how a businessman thinks. All right? We have not had people like this in government in a long time. Elon Musk said President Trump has put the greatest cabinet together in American history. I think he may be right. Now, is every one of these people perfect? No, of course not. I told you, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, worked for Soros Fund Management. This is a big-time Wall Street guy in Howard Lutnick. But I think Lutnick and both Bessent are well-intentioned. And these are great ideas. So I will give them leeway until the point where I can't give them leeway anymore. But right now, they're saying everything that I need to hear. And oh, by the way, this goes to show you how often I'm sending stuff through the mail. A stamp is now 73 cents for a forever stamp. I still think 73 cents is a good deal to come to your house and take a letter off your doorstep. March it all the way out to California, drop it off on your friend's doorstep, all for 73 cents. Come on. What a deal. I'd pay $1. I'd pay $2. I'd probably pay $5 for that privilege. We're charging 73 cents. And now, just as Lutnick says, these guys could bring forms. You wouldn't have to go to the Social Security office. You could do everything through at-home customer service. Wow. Now America's really becoming a great place. I got an issue. Don't go to the Social Security office. The post office will come to your house. They'll work it out for you right at your house. Hell yeah. I'm in, man. I'm totally in. Here's something for you folks I want to tell you about. It's called My 555 Challenge. So, you know, I talk about Energized Health all the time. They're running this challenge, $5, 5 days, lose 5 pounds guaranteed. If you feel like you need to tighten it up just a little bit, maybe you feel like you need to lose 100, 200, 300 pounds, Energized Health can help you. And it starts with doing the My 555 Challenge. My555challenge.com, My555challenge.com. Go there and take that first step. This is about intercellular hydration. Their website, Energized Health, has a master class on this. It's worth taking. But getting hydrated at a cellular level is much different than just chugging water. This is where the science comes into it. This is where your health comes into it, your mental focus, your mental clarity. As I mentioned, I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. I've kept it off. I was already in pretty good shape, but I wanted to just tighten it up. And I feel like, look at that. Look at that. I feel like I'm in good shape now, right? Energized Health. I thank them. My555challenge.com. Do it. You got nothing to lose but pounds. All right? You'll gain muscle mass too, and that's a big benefit. All right, My555challenge.com. All right, turning now to Speaker Johnson. Speaker Johnson's gets hammered by Caitlin Collins on CNN. I told you before, this woman used to work for like the Daily Caller or something. Clearly she's a hired gun. She'll say and do whatever her boss wants her to say and do, because she sure comes off like a liberal now.
Does instruct the House Energy and Commerce Committee to find $880 billion in cuts, right?
That's right. That's one of the
and
committees.
So how did they get
Caitlin,
$880 billion in cuts from that committee without touching Medicaid?
Because ENC has it actually has the broadest jurisdiction of any committee in Congress. It covers everything, energy and commerce. You know, the name indicates how broad the jurisdiction is. I challenge you or anybody on your staff, do a word search for Medicaid on the resolution that we passed last night. You will not find it. That is not part of this equation.
And they did that on purpose. So this is one of the left's weapons, lies. What they're pushing right now is Republicans want to cut your benefits for Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Nobody is offering that up. Nobody. If we save money in Medicare and Medicaid, it's from saving it through waste, fraud, and abuse. You know, I talked to you about how we're paying $3,800 for prescription medications that you can get for $65 cash pay. Why would the government pay $3,800 when I can walk into a pharmacy and pay $65 for it? That's abusive. And that was literally $1 billion for 2 drugs. So you're going to see this money's going to start to add up very, very quickly. 2 drugs we focused on would save America almost $1 billion if the government just paid cash pay prices. So this is about fraudulent users of Medicare, Medicaid, as Speaker Johnson mentions.
Okay, we're talking about finding efficiencies in every program, but not cutting benefits for people who rightly deserve that. Work requirements for Medicaid. That is something that is public opinion polls almost 90%. You don't want able-bodied workers on a program that is intended, for example, for single mothers with 2 small children who's just trying to make it. That's what Medicaid is for, not for 29-year-old males sitting on their couches playing video games. We're going to find those guys and we're going to send them back to work. That's what everybody supports. That's what the Republicans are for. And by the way, we find dignity in our work. That's going to be good for everybody.
And I want to follow up on that, but on that energy and
All right,
commerce.
before she follows up on that, I gotta just answer Craig Muttley's question to me on the Rumble chat. This is, you ready for this, Grant? Will you do a pay-per-view fight on the House or Senate floor if we can entice one of the Dems or rhinos to accept the challenge? Do it for constitutional conservative elections and kids. I would do it in a heartbeat, but I'm 56 years old. I don't move as quick as I used to, but I still have some fight moves left in me. I was okay on that front. I got a little bit of a bum right hip, but I think I get a little steroid injection before. I could manage to get through it. Who would I like to go up against? I wonder, look, I don't want to pick on people, but Adam Schiff's got to be about the same age as me. Why don't we do a cage match with Adam Schiff and me? I would kick his ass. Talk about rhinos. There's some rhinos up there that I would love to go toe-to-toe with. Some of them, though, I don't think I could kick their ass. Like Dan Crenshaw and I have gotten into it over the years. All right, the Navy SEAL that said he was going to kill Tucker Carlson. Dan Crenshaw could probably take us both out, but would I do it for charity? Why not? How old is Adam Schiff bag, by the way? Let's see. Oh, I typed in Adam Schiff bag. Adam Schiff age. Oh, he's older than me. He's 64 years old. So I'm 56. So I'd have to find somebody my age or younger. Craig, why don't you offer up some people and then we'll do it. We'll challenge them. Ratchet. We'll challenge them for a charity. All right. Charity of our choice. Sounds like a great idea. All right. Should we continue with Speaker Johnson?
The vast majority of funds that they have are Medicare and Medicaid. So when you talk about $880 billion,
that's simply not true.
So where are you cutting from within that committee?
Energy and Commerce's jurisdiction would take us 20 pages to go through, Caitlin. They've got
I'm
almost
talking about
everything
the biggest
in the U.S.
pools.
economy. There are large pools in the healthcare components, but we're not going to cut benefits for people who are rightfully deserve it. And watch this play out. Just reserve your judgment. The White House has said that we're not going to do that. The House Republicans have said we're not going to do that. And Senator Kennedy said, hell no. Okay, so you heard it from the Senate, the House, and the White House. So let's let this play out.
Why are they so hell-bent on saying this? Because they don't want the American people to support common sense ideas that take away the spending from all their pet projects and their friends getting rich. That's all this is. So Speaker Johnson just spelled it out very clearly. President Trump said no cut in benefits. The House of Representatives under Speaker Johnson's leadership, no cut in benefits. And the Senate, Senator Johnson says no cut in benefits. What more do you have to say?
A long football game to play. Last night was the kickoff of the game. So just watch it play out and you'll see. I think the American people are going to benefit greatly by the package that we're going to produce for them. We are going to deliver the America First agenda, and it's going to be good for everybody. We're going to spur economic growth. We're going to cut regulations. We're going to cut the deep state and the bureaucracy to make government more efficient. We're going to secure the border. We're going to get energy dominance back again for our country that is long overdue. And we're going to spur on the U.S. economy. And by the way, Caitlin, the big drive of all this is to ensure we don't have the largest tax increase in U.S. history at the end of this year.
That's what we want. We want tax cuts, not the tax increase, tax cuts. We want all those things solidified legislatively. It's great. Speaker Johnson, keep going. We got that through the House. This, I'm dubbing the DOGE Act, through the House. Now we got to put pressure on the Senate. Back to Craig's idea of a match on the floor of the House for charity. You know who I always thought would be a great match? And it would be a good match. But now he's like trying not to be a liberal anymore. But I always thought Chris Cuomo, I could go toe-to-toe with Chris Cuomo. You know, the left always accuses me of being a meathead. The right accuses him of being a meathead. I think that would be a good, fair fight. Cuomo versus Stinchfield. He's in good shape. I'll give him that. Or we can just do a flat-out debate, and I promise you I kick his ass. I will kick any Democrat or Rhino in a debate any day of the week, any time, any place. And you know why? Same reason all of you would kick their asses in a debate. Because we have the truth on our side. We have the Constitution on our side. The Bible's on our side. Common sense is on our side. God is on our side. Right is on our side. Truth is on our side. I mean, we can't lose. All right. Folks, before I let you go, I got to get ready for the Real America's Voice show tonight. We're going to have a good show for you. I promise you on that front. Don't forget about my friends over at the Wellness Company. Peter McCullough was so funny. You know, we did a podcast with him on Tuesday. Dr. McCullough, who I just love. I think he's really an American hero. He called me a prepper. Conservative podcaster and prepper, Grant Stinchfield, as he tweeted out the podcast. I mean, I guess I'm a prepper. My sister said, Googled the definition of prepper. You want to see what it said? She says, this was funny. I said, I'm not a prepper. I said, yeah, I got thousands of rounds of ammunition. I got 3 months supply of food. I don't have a bunker at my house, though I kind of would like a bunker at my house. I think that would be kind of cool. My sister said, what's a prepper, when she saw his thing. And so she sent me the definition. A person who believes a catastrophic disaster or emergency is likely to occur in the future and makes active preparations for it, typically by stockpiling food, ammunition, and other supplies. So if that's the simple definition of a prepper, I guess I am one. And if you're going to be a prepper worth his weight in salt, you got to have prescription medications. This is the Wellness Company's kit, 8 prescription medications in here, including ivermectin. I've used others, amoxicillin for my strep throat. And then I got this one. This is why Dr. McCullough calls me a prepper, because I had to have this kit. This is the field kit. It's got even more medications in it. It's got an EpiPen in it. I mean, both of them are going to save a life, but this is badass. And it's waterproof too, by the way. So those are the kits. I urge you to go there. And, you know, he said this immunity mist on there. I just ordered it. I'm waiting to get it from TWC. He says he sprays it twice a day. He gets up in the morning and at night, this immunity mist into his nose. So the virus can live for 5 days in your nose before it gets into your throat. So you got 5 days to kill any of these viruses, flu, COVID, you name it, with this immunity mist. So I just ordered that from TWC. You should too. TWC.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. You know what I will do for you, though, just because I hate to leave on an ad. Eric Swalwell, confronted by Nick Sorter.
So, Congressman, you referred to Elon Musk as a
Oh, by the way, how about this guy? This guy would be a great guy for me to challenge to a match on the House floor. I mean, I would fight him for charity, right? That's a fair match. I promise you, I will kick Eric Swalwell's ass. He's a big, you-know-what, wussy with a P.
fascist at some point and alluded to him being a national security threat. Do you see that more of a national security threat, you sleeping with a Chinese spy, than transparency in the federal government? What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that? What's Fang Fang think of that?
What are you doing? What does Fang Fang think?
What's fascistic about exposing government corruption? I mean, I know you're just at dinner now with a bunch of lobbyists. You know, they're buying you a bunch of booze, and you know that's awfully nice. I know you were talking about, maybe finding somebody else because you only like to fuck people that are tens. I just heard that one too. So what do you think about that? Do you want to comment on any of it?
Who doesn't like that, really?
Elon Musk is a national security threat, but you sleeping with a Chinese spy is not. Is that correct?
I will tell you this to defend Eric Swalwell. My very special lady friend's 10. No doubt about it. But this guy Swalwell, what a piece of work. Dude, you don't even have the guts to talk to the man. He's asking you these questions. Turn around and say something. I'm trying to be funny. Do something. You look like a loser.
You don't want to comment on that at all? Looks like guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. You better believe it. Oh, yeah. 10s, not 10. That's true, Goose. It was 10s, not singular. Oh, brother. Anyway, folks, God bless all of you. You guys are great. Stinchfield's Army rolls, of course, thanks to all of you. Will you do me a favor? Take the podcast, spread it far and wide, copy the link, tweet it out, X it out, whatever you do with it. Put it on Truth Social, Getter, all the places people are watching, and I thank people for that on all the different outlets that were out. We're growing in some areas, man. YouTube, wasteland. Not giving me any traction here. I don't know what it is. Well, I know what it is, but I mean wasteland at YouTube. What do we have watching right now? 2 people. 2. I mean, I got to believe this content's better than 2 people. My Lord. All right, folks. As I said, thank you. God bless all of you, and we will see you tomorrow, same time. Oh, before that, though, we got the Real America's Voice show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you there. Thanks for watching.